I want to get the heavy stuff out of the way. So let's get to the deaths that happened over the weekend. The Grim Reaper came to collect child. Miss Mamas was not playing. So we the other day we lost Shelley Duvall. I didn't even get to talk about that. First of all, I love Shelley Duvall because Shelley Duvall was like one of my favorite actresses. Even though Popeye was a hot ass mess, I did like her in it. She made the perfect Olive Oyl. That was like brilliant casting. But of course, and then growing up when I was a kid, like whenever I told y'all that when I lived in New York, always lived in New York, except there was a brief period when I did move to LA. But for the most part, when I grew up in Brooklyn, we used to go to the Brooklyn Public Library, which is over in Grand Army Plaza. It's like downtown Brooklyn. And you could also rent VHSs and stuff over there. And one of the things about my family and everything was that, we could pick one book that we wanted to read. So if I wanted to read something on like Star Wars or whatever, that I could, but we always had to read stuff that was educational. So my parents was big on that. We also could release, they also let you rent videotapes from the Brooklyn Public Library. And one of the tapes that we always used to rent was this show called Fairy Tale Theater. Now, a lot of people don't know this about Fairy Tale Theater, but the show was hosted by Shelley Duvall. That's what I was getting to. And I used to love that show because she would be kind of like the host, and then you would get into like these stories that was based off of like fairy tales, which of course was like watered down. But if you ever read Grimm's fairy tales, you would realize like the stuff with the Grimm's fairy tales was crazy. A lot of the stuff that was going on with the stuff, those stories is really dark, but they kind of Disney-fied them. So I used to love watching that. But of course, when she played Wendy Torrance from The Shining, that was like her most iconic role, and her playing opposite Jack Nicholson was always a key. So she passed away, and if y'all want to definitely, if you have Shudder, excuse me, you could definitely catch The Shining over there because they have it on that channel. Then yesterday it was like they all came in threes. So we lost Richard Simmons, who was like in his 70s, the day after his birthday. And the weird part is him and Shelley Duvall kind of like they didn't die the same way, but they died the same way, if it makes any sense. Like they had a birthday, the next day they died. So that was the same thing with her. So we lost Richard Simmons. Cool. Shout out to him. He was like before my time. Like I grew up with Richard Simmons because, every woman in America was basically working out to them Richard Simmons tapes. He had the big hair, the short shorts. All I remember is, that always lives, that scene that lives rent free in my head from The Nutty Professor in the beginning where Eddie Murphy was playing him. It was like, I'm a pony. I'm a pony. That part always gets me cackling. So shout out to Richard Simmons. He was a cackle. He was on, he was like an icon. They don't make people like him anymore. Like these just fun, energetic, people that you could just relate to, but also this is like larger than life and full of energy. So rest in peace to him. And then we lost Dr. Ruth, who I also grew up with because Dr. Ruth was someone who was big on talking about sex and things. So everybody went to Dr. Ruth Westheimer. She was like the big one that always talked about sex. And one of the things I didn't know about her growing up, well, I didn't know she was a Holocaust survivor because her parents put her on, her mother and her grandmother put her on a train, I guess, for like kids to kind of go to, I forget where they said it was because I don't have her bio in front of me. But one of the interesting things I learned about her was that she was in the military and she was trained to be a sniper. Now, Miss Mamas was still alive. You know who she could have took out? We about to talk about him next. But she was in her 90s. And, we lost her. So shout out to her. But the big one that really hit me was waking up this damn morning and finding out that we lost good old Shannen Doherty. So now I was not expecting this because, Shannen Doherty is someone who I basically grew up with her. Like I remember her from Little House on the Prairie. Everybody knows her from 90210, Beverly Hills 90210. But of course, Beverly Hills 90210 was like, in a way, before my time because I never really watched Beverly Hills 90210 when I was old enough. The show that I resonated with the most was Charm because Charm was basically, I was a CW kid. I was someone that watched a lot of shows on, well, actually, I will say the WB because before the CW, there was the WB. I went to the WB, a transition over to that, and that's basically what that was. So I related to watching a lot of the stuff over there in so many ways. And I'm trying to remember, was Charm part of the WB before they transitioned to the CW, or it came after? I think it might have come after. I don't remember, but I remember Buffy the Vampire Slayer was part of the WB before with the CW. You know, they had that, Felicity, all those shows. So that was more or less geared to my generation, and a lot of those shows will be watched. So when hearing about her passing away from, you know, her long battle with cancer and all the stuff we've talked about on this show, from when she had her podcast and the issues that she had with Alyssa Milano, which I did hear she spoke out and she received backlash. And that regardless of whatever their issues was, I say at least it was it was kind enough that Alyssa spoke out. Now I do feel like damn if she does and damn if she doesn't. Like she would have still gotten dragged regardless if she would have or wouldn't have spoken out. But I understand why she spoke out, because it's like I have to speak, because if I don't, then they're going to drag me. But then she should have. I'm sure she knew that she would get dragged even if she spoke out. So Shannen was young. She was 53 years old. And, she's been battling brain cancer for years. I think it was stage 4. We already know, like, when we hear stage 4, that's sort of like you're on borrowed time. It's only a matter of time before, God calls you home, if you believe in God. So, according to Variety, it says Shannen Doherty, known for her roles in the wildly popular series Beverly Hills 90210 and the witchcraft fantasy Charm, has died after being diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. She was, okay, so it was breast. Did I say brain cancer? I meant breast cancer. I knew it was something with a B. That was my fault. So it is with a heavy heart that I confirm the passing of actress Shannen Doherty. Doherty's publicist Leslie Sloan said in a statement on Saturday, July 13th, she lost her battle with cancer after many years of fighting the disease. The devoted daughter, sister, aunt, and friend was surrounded by her loved ones as well as her dog Bowie. The family asked for privacy at this time so they can grieve in peace. Doherty rose to fame in 1990 as the fresh-faced brunette Brenda Walsh on Fox's Beverly Hills 90210, along with her twin brother Brandon, played by Jason Priestley. The Walshes were the classic fish-out-of-water family that had recently moved from Minnesota to Beverly Hills and were constantly amazed at the antics of the LA rich kids. Well, yeah, I did. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say I ain't never seen an episode of Beverly Hills 90210. Like, when I got older, I did watch, old episodes, and there were times where when I was a kid, see, this is how strict my parents was. I wasn't even allowed to have a TV in my bedroom. So there was a time where I remember, like, there was a small little TV in the attic. So what I did was I would sneak the TV out the attic and I hid it under the bed and I plug it in, and I would watch like Beverly Hills 90210, and I would watch all them other shows. I even used to sneak and watch Melrose Place. That's how strict my parents was. It was like at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, you had to go to bed because you had to go to school. Like, I was very much into, like, I wasn't really doing a lot of crazy. Well, I did do some sinful things, on the sneak tip, but I did come from like strict parents and all that other stuff. So, um, they said that, of course, the show was a massive hit. I don't know if I actually brought up the fact that, I remember Shannen from Little House on the Prairie. But of course, they said, there was a lot of drama and stuff going on behind the scenes with the cast, especially Doherty being a diva. They said, though the show had started out with Garth Kelly as the less likable character, the perception soon changed and Brenda became the cast member everyone loved to hate on. She was labeled a diva in the press, and then was even a pre-internet newsletter. There was even a pre-internet newsletter called I Hate Brenda. They said Doherty appeared on 11 episodes before leaving the series at the end of season 4 amid reports of friction with other cast members, particularly Garth. Now, by the time the show was rebooted 2 more times, everyone had mellowed with age, and Doherty returned as Brenda in the 2008 revival 90210 for 1 season, and in the later revival 2019 BH 90210. Now, after her stormy departure from Beverly Hills 90210, Doherty found her footing on Charm, the supernatural drama following 3 sisters who discover they are witches and must work together to fight evil. She played the eldest of the 3 sisters, Prue Hollowell, alongside Alyssa Milano and Holly Marie Combs, they didn't put it in there, who played Phoebe and Piper, respectively. I'm adding that to the article, because they didn't put their names. Now, in 2000 and 2001, she directed 3 episodes of the series Be Careful What You Wish For, The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed, and All Hell Breaks Loose, the last episode she appeared in. Her character was killed off when she left the series at the end of the 3rd season. So it's funny how she lasted 4 seasons on 90210 and 3 seasons on Charm, and all due to the same thing, which was behind the scenes drama. So that's what basically a lot of that was coming for. Now it says a feature film she appeared in another teen class. She was also in Heathers, which is a movie that I love with oh my god, what the hell was his, I can't remember his damn name, and I see him in my head. He played the interviewer in Interview with the Vampire, the movie. Christian Slater. That's what it was. She played it, they was in that movie. And I love Heathers. Which I feel like Heathers walked so that way, like movies like Jawbreaker and even Clueless could run, as well as Girls Just Want to Have Fun and Kevin Smith's Mallrats and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. She also appeared on North Shore and Riverdale as well. Wait, she was on Riverdale? I don't know, because I bailed out of Riverdale after like maybe the first 2 seasons or whatever. Like I just didn't like Riverdale and what that whole show was about, so I couldn't really get into it. They were trying to do the whole gay pandering thing with some of the storylines. I couldn't get into it. So Doherty was diagnosed with breast cancer in February 2015. In 2017, said that she was in remission, but by 2019 the cancer had returned and spread. She continued working with roles in TV, movies, including Donna Belong and List of a Lifetime. She also hosted a popular podcast, Let's Be Clear, which I did listen to episodes. We've even played some clips from her show on here, especially when she would reminisce about, stuff with her time on Charmed and all that other stuff. So in June of last year, she had been receiving radiation for a cancer that had spread to her brain. And she's been married a lot of times. So she was married to Ashley Hamilton, who is the son of George Hamilton. And she was married to poker player Rick Solomon. That name sounds familiar. Wasn't he messing with Paris Hilton? And in 2011, she married photographer Kurt Iswarienko. They filed for divorce last year, and I remember the last time we spoke about Shannen, she was there was an ongoing legal battle with her and him in regards of her saying that he was living his lavish lifestyle, and she needed him to help fund a lot of her expenses, especially the medical treatments and stuff that she was undergoing, because she said she couldn't work. Because when you have to realize that there's certain dues that you have to pay when you're a SAG-AFTRA member, that if you're not working a certain amount of times a year, they cut your insurance. They cut you out of your insurance. So she was pretty much in that whole situation, and she was looking to the husband to fund all of that. So I don't know. So I just want to say shout out to Shannen Doherty. You will definitely be missed. She was definitely like one of my favorite actresses growing up. And it's unfortunate we don't have her here. And you know what? She's probably up in the sky somewhere in the Peach Pit, having a good old milkshake with Luke Perry. So I say, well, let's say, what do y'all think of this story? Are y'all saddened to hear about the death of 80s and 90s TV icon Shannen Doherty? Let me know in the comments down below.